So question number 52, is there any significance to the number of fish the disciples caught in John chapter 21 and verse number 11? So continuing on with John, we now go to chapter number 21. And in chapter 21, what we see is that the disciples go back up to Galilee, to the Sea of Galilee, and they kind of go back to fishing. Simon Peter said, I'm going to fish, and they said, we'll go with you. And this isn't going out and having a nice relaxing fishing expedition. This is going out and working for the fish. And so they are out there at night, because that's what they do, and out there all night long, and they catch nothing. And so what we see is that next morning, very early in the morning, when it was still kind of dark, Jesus is on the side of the lake, the Sea of Galilee, and the disciples are in a boat that's maybe 100, 150 yards off the shore. So it's pretty close. And, it's kind of dark, so they really can't distinguish who's over there on the shore. And so he calls out to them and says, friends, haven't you any fish? And they say, no. I'm sure that there's probably a little bit of, discouragement in that answer. And so he said, throw your net on the right side of the boat and you'll find some. And so they did. And when they did, there was such a large number of fish that they were unable to haul in the net. And so it was just an enormous catch of fish all of a sudden. And in the commotion, all of a sudden, Peter realizes, that's Jesus. And so he said, it's the Lord. And Peter doesn't even wait until the boat comes into shore. Peter just jumps right in. He still has his cloak on. And he just swims right over there to Jesus, leaving all the other disciples struggling with the net. And so when they get there, they see that Jesus has already prepared breakfast for them with some fish, got a little charcoal fire going and everything. And we see that it says, Jesus in verse number 10 says, bring some of the fish you have caught. And Simon Peter climbed aboard and dragged the net ashore. And it says it was full of large fish, 153, but even with so many, the net was not torn. Okay? So, is there any significance to the fact that John says 153? Well, as far as in symbolism and in numerology, no, there isn't. First of all, there's really not any significance in the number 153. And secondly, in this case and in any place that you look at numbers in the Bible, it's just a good general rule of thumb that you don't try to interpret it symbolically unless it is something that calls out for it, okay? When it's something that's just screaming off the page, then you can go and you can start to, take and say, okay, well, like the number 1 has to do with the unity of God. The number 3 has to do with Jesus, the Trinity. The number 7 is the number of divine completion, because we see that so many times in Scripture. So when we have numbers like that, and it's something that is symbolic, we need to deal with it. When it's not symbolic, it's just not symbolic, and so it's like, why were there, why is the number 12 there? Well, it could be that it's just one number less than 13 and one number more than 11, and that's about it. It's just, it's just 12, and that's it. So in this case, though, it is kind of specific, though, that John says 153. I mean, he's pretty exact, isn't he? Okay. Why did he count it, and why is it there? Well, think about it this rate. This is 153, and notice that it is large fish. Okay? Well, no, I'm just saying that the fish were large. Okay? And so let's just kind of guesstimate this. I don't know, when you think about a large fish, large is a relative term. So what is large to one person may not be large to another person. As far as, and I kind of wish, Carl was here, because he could tell us about large fish on the Mississippi. I've been out with him on the Mississippi before, commercial fishing, and large fish on the Mississippi, weigh 60, 75, 100 plus pounds apiece. Okay, well, Sea of Galilee, let's just assume that, a large fish doesn't weigh that much. Let's just assume that a large fish weighs 50 pounds, Okay? Well, 153 large fish weighing on average 50 pounds, you're talking about 7,600 pounds of fish. If you're thinking about an average fish weighing 30 pounds, you're still talking about over 4,000 pounds of fish that's here, okay? And so, here's 153 large fish, and the net is not even torn, okay? So again, why isn't the net torn? Because of the power of Jesus, right? How is it that they've been working all night and they haven't caught a fish? All of a sudden, they just throw the net over to the other side, and then you've got so many fish, it's just mind-boggling, right? Well, it's the power of Jesus. And so, what's the significance about 153 large fish? Well, it's the fact that the power of God to provide for them is right there. And there's something else, and that is that, since we've got 153 and it's something that's specific, it's kind of an indication that John really was the author of this gospel, and that he really was there and he really did know what he was talking about too, right? When you've got something specific like that, it's like, yeah, that's an indication that the person really was there and in place. So, all right, you have any thoughts or questions about that one?
And God provided before miracle. It was broke.
Oh.
Before he said, go put.
When Jesus called his disciples to follow him, you remember that they toiled all night long, hadn't caught a thing. Jesus said, let's go out for catch in the middle of the day, which is when you don't do it. And then they put Peter said, Master, we've labored hard all night long, but at your bidding, we will let down the nets. And then all of a sudden it was such a large catch of fish that it started to sink the boat, and they had to get another boat in there to help them, So, and that's another case here too, and that is that here's Jesus calling them to be fishers of men with that miracle. Now Jesus again is going to say, all right, guys, you're going from this point forward, and here you are being more fishers of men. Okay? All right, anybody else?